Nation are being the alpha predators, the apex of right now in this EU region. And that is proof in the pudding, considering they're sitting on top of the leaderboard and they're looking pretty and they're looking swaggish, because right now Tayson picked up a knock on the feet. And we already seen this double
best you'll ever get. It's Mongrel up there with a legendary Stark infantry rifle, raining. Lechy's going to pick up another Elim. Despite the fact that 17 players have dropped, not a single trio has gone down, so only one placement point doled out. And as I say that, they begin to tick over. Mongrel gets another elimination. 15 trios remaining, going to be forced over to the side. He's going to build back up. He needs to get over to the high ground and connect with this team, but they are doing a great job of executing this textbook high ground control, and it's going to be their match to close out. However, low on mats is Mongrel, but he says, don't matter, don't care. I got the AR I need in the Stark Industry Rifle, and he finds another elimination. We have our top 20 players, top 11 trios.
And it's going to go back over water again. And it all is up to Tayson, the in-game leader, to kind of lead Mongrel and Mitro to the prime positioning with getting a knock on ZQ, getting them those angles that they need to send those beams down. We've already labeled these as one of the strongest players in the region with beams, and look at this, it's going to go off a waterfall, so the more elevation is going to go down and down. This is going to be crazy, this is intense. Coral Castle, and now we're going to take a peek just for a brief moment at what is going down in the chaos down below. We have the ultimate box fighter teams, Wolfie, CRR, and Kenzel sitting in third place, trying to say, wait a minute, not so fast, Mongrel. We are going to contest you, and we are going to have a chance to win, but it's going to require a huge effort to dethrone the Kings on top, Sundown.
And we still need to see them go down. However, Janus on his feet, despite Andelix being up to the second place team, at least still getting up to fifth. That's what the top trios do the best in the game. They manage to find a way to eke out these placement points. We've talked about it, that Europe has kind of been the run of the Lone Ranger of the final moments. And if there isn't a trio hip to hip, then there's an opportunity clutches to come through. But right now on the low ground, you have one of the most dangerous trios who is hip to hip, as Hen will go down there. Deceptos following in his feet right away will signal the end of that trio, but Wolfies is at the back of the storm. But at the end of the E11 Tayson, the Chapter 2 Season 3 solo winner, Liquid Mitro and Mongrel on the high ground running it out. It's a 3v2. They have 11 eliminations, and at this point, it is a battle for second. There is no way, unless there is a monumental ruin, that with the way this trio is playing so far, anybody will be able to catch them or repeat this performance, and this is why Mitro drops down. Tayson and Mongrel.
similar names that we've seen over the last 2 days on the stage.
Yeah, I was going to say that the top 15 is really kind of looking standard now. These guys have found their pacing. It's about improving even more now, taking every game as an individual moment, analyzing it, making the best decisions, and winning, just like we saw Mitro, Mongrel, and Tayson do in that last 60th to 20th overall. We also have a few new names coming in and out, but at the same time, the same teams still on the page. We see Lanoof, Marine, and Jaspe on this page right now, 47 points, contesting that top team in first place. Hen, Deciptos, and Putrick finding some success here on day 2, but these guys will have to have great games to catch up to that top 5.
Guys, this last game felt like a superhero movie, right? We had the shot of the waterfall. We had players trying to go up and down, and then finally the heroes find themselves basking in the sun at the end, being victorious. I mean, we very well could be looking at our next FNCS champions, but there's more that kind of happened here in the game. So I'm going to kick it over to you guys. Walk us through what you guys are seeing.
That we'll have some big perspectives here earlier on in that end game from Mongrel, and how these guys kind of learned from their last game, game number 1 of today, fixed their mistakes, and in game number 2 really played the zone very well to get that victory royale.
You can see they're already on height at this point, but they claimed that during the 50-50 zone because they got the zone right on them from 4th. But these guys are good. They'd already claimed a high ground position earlier on, so when they got that 5th zone, they could completely utilize that and keep height from there on out.
Yeah, in game 1, the mistake was kind of putting all the eggs in one basket, but not really knowing exactly where that basket stood. In this zone, there was water completely in the low ground. They were very comfortable on staying on height the whole time. Tayson here as well staying at the front. Mongrel staying in the back so he could keep tabs on any trios trying to shockwave up like we saw Ortors do before. There's that water dive bomb play as Sancho called out. CRR, Kinzel, and Wolfies tried their best to play this water zone, but being on height is the best choice when you're in this type of zone, this aquatic kind of formation of what ends up happening for everyone on low. It's so hard to find your footing, and because of that, Mitro, Mongrel, and Tayson stayed high, stayed dry, and ended up winning that game with beautiful decision making.
And Mitro actually, if you saw there, edited down by Tayson, which didn't seem like an accident. You know, initially when you watched that back, it seemed like Mitro was going to make the aggressive play to go pick up those eliminations. But, you know, even the top teams make a mistake at the end, accidentally editing Mitro down into the water. But because they were over that water, he was safe from fall damage, and they all managed to frag out and pick up that big victory royale.
Hey, look, you just got to fake it till you make it, right? It's not a mistake if you don't call it out. It's a calculated risk, a calculated plan of a guys. When you're as skilled as these guys, when you've been on the scene as these L's into W's, that's just what they do. I want to see them continue with this momentum. Remember, we've got another 5 games on the day. Anything can happen, but will it? We have to kick it back over to our casters to continue the storylines, and we'll be back after this with more breakdowns. Take it away, boys.
Thank you so much, Zeke, Shio, and Reese. And here we are into the match number 8. And so far, it's been all Tayson, Mongrel, and Mitro with nothing less than a 7th place finish over their first 7 matches. So incredibly well done. But already looking at the mini-map, for the first time in what feels like a long time, there's some other triangles at Stark Industries. So somebody has decided to pony up. Somebody has decided to rise to the challenge and be the David to their Goliath over at Stark Industries. We'll be keeping an eye on the elimination feed, but with the Southern Zone 2 right on the edge of that, it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Hey, I don't know, man. I've been watching Ghostbusters, getting me in the Halloween spirit. You guys released some awesome outfits. And that is a biblical proportion type feat. That is one giant marshmallow, man, to overcome there. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to bust the bubble of Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson. They are on an unbelievable ride. But one hero that may stand tall, one trio that can get that job done, they can make things interesting. They could pop off with elims as well. And they've been putting it all together. We're getting some placement points, Sundown.
And one thing to note in particular about the last game, you saw how he had the bandage cannon on the low ground, but being out of mats, and when you're in the water, you can't actually fire the bandage against anything. It will go all the way down to the bottom of the water. So despite being on 20 HP, he didn't have anything to kind of mark himself against. As we actually see up in the elimination feed, Andretta picking up another early elimination there, but also we saw Lecce end up going down as well. So another one of our power trios over at Doom's Domain struggling a little bit here off of the start. The Dual Media boys giving them everything they can handle so far here on day 2.
And I gotta know, as we seen that Snipe does pick up an Elim on Benji, what happened? What went down there in Stark Industry? We gotta see in a moment notice. We'll get that replay up going.
Yeah, and that was Benji's full Elim as well. Their trio is down. You keep an eye on that top left corner now, as we're going to see. It's Anas, Thomas HD, and Flick. If there's anybody to rise to the challenge and go after these guys, it will be them. You can see Anas already holding on to the elimination. Flick finds Mitro off of the start, and not only that, but the power weapons in their hands. You can see Tayson tries to make a little bit of an escape here, but you know they're going to ride that one down right away. Big white tags coming out there, and Flick, who accounts for 75% of this trio's eliminations pre-round or pre-zone 5, is going to find his second one here, and they're going to wrap up for the first time in this tournament. Tayson, Mitro, and Mongo go down with 0 points. They had never finished lower than 7th place before this, and that was all the way back in the first game. So now, all of a sudden, that battle for 2nd place, everyone else gets that one opportunity to kind of, I believe the technical term is, shrink that leaderboard gap just a little bit.
Oh man, and that is the story that we have now developing. I took a look at Twitter, okay? I took a look, and Flick, all he tweeted out was a demon emote. That's all, emoji. That's all he tweeted out. Anas, he said, we should have never left. I'm telling you, the problems of switching from their drop spot. They switched from that dirty docks where they were being so strong and so prominent, and they had strong finishes. When they switched to retail row, I just think they noticed that it wasn't enough. They weren't getting their power weapons. They weren't getting all the resources that they need for their playstyle. And now they realize that, hey man, you know, yeah, you never know. They could pop off. You never know, Sundown.
And we've talked about it before as well with this trio coming through. One, they're incredible in terms of their playmaking ability. Whether it's early or late game, we've seen Flick just kind of let running. They also get a nice little Llama 210 pick up there, some extra mats, extra utility. Not that the Stark Industries team will need it after that fact, but I mean the playmaking capability. But on the flip side of that, let's talk about kind of the mental check that's now going to put on Mitro, Mongo, and Tayson.
Huge.
Because for this entire competition, they haven't had to worry about sitting there in queues. They haven't had to worry about thinking who's going to come there. They haven't had to game plan something else. They haven't had to prep for somebody to come challenge them. Now, all of a sudden, not only are you eliminated in 30 seconds with 0 points, you have to sit there for a half hour, watch everyone else play outside while you're stuck there in jail. No more games for you back in the lobby. And they're out of that rhythm a little bit. They're a trio who very much kind of rides on that momentum. They're very, very emotional players. When they made the World Cup announcement back in the day, people joked about Mitro and Mongo being the loudest duo, both for the keyboard clacks and just the way they celebrate when they make their plays. But now that they've been silenced for a second, how do they react?
Tayson will have the biggest challenge of them all. Will Mongo and Mitro put up that brick wall and not listen to his calls? It's going to be up to Tayson to kind of hold that ship from going capsizing completely. Giannis, Alex, and Xweez, they have an opportunity now to gain some grounds here. They are about 60-plus points away. They're certainly sitting in 2nd place. Another trio that we took a peek in down in Slurpy Swamps was Kinzel, Wolfie, and CR. That opens up the door to gain some ground, but we're talking about a difference of about 2 victory royales and some like close to double-digit elims. That's what's going to be required, and the difference is as well as we still have plenty of games to go, Sundown. We're just barely into the second half here of the grand finals here of the FNCS trios.
And it was starting to feel like it couldn't be overcome because of how consistent they were. There was no hope. There was nobody who wanted to rise up and be the ones to challenge them. However, we've kind of talked about it before. Like, Jasper and Co., yes, they 50-50'd the chess, but they were relatively successful, and they turned a couple of those late games around. So especially if a top trio comes in with a game plan on how to take those fights, and they come in not necessarily fearing those three off of the bat, which they're one of the three players who can really genuinely say, like, yeah, let's go fight these guys and maybe come out better than 50-50. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to think, okay, Mongo really wants to get revenge there. But if they're not, they haven't had to practice this drop being contested through the first 6 or 7 games. Now, all of a sudden, 8th game, they lose it. 9th game, if they lose it again, there's going to be that seed of doubt in there. But right now, Razumi trying to get a little bit of doubt on this team, rotating away here, and a little bit of storm tags as they just remain utilizing their soft mats to get some positioning.
And Safik's trio here is looking for a good start here in day 2. Haven't gotten any points at the moment, in 11th place. Safik has been one of our slayers here in the region, picking up 15-plus elims by himself. But speaking of opportunities, opening the door here, it feels like, you know, at Anas, Thomas, Stacey, and Flick have slayed the beast, right? Now all the villagers are going to have a good time to try to claim that castle up there. And Nakos, Clement, and Flokis have an opportunity to storm that castle. They're sitting in 4th place at the moment. They're still about 30 points away, so that is a victory royale. They could definitely do it in one punch, but they could slowly jab their way up their leaderboard, Sundown.
I would say it's probably more equivalent to either scratching the dragon's nose and making him think for a second.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's where he breathes the fire out of, so he's got like a little, it's like, that's a minor discomfort. Yeah. I wasn't ready for that. I'm going to come back in a moment, but like, the villagers are celebrating. They're like, yay, we drove off the beast. Or it's like punching a great white shark in the face. It's like, yeah, you know what? You punched the great white shark in the face, but that shark is still in the water with you. Yeah, you showed that maybe you might be a little bit of a threat, and maybe you can punch back. But he's still there. They still exist. And while they're going to be forced out for just a little second, one, who takes advantage of that opportunity? And 2, what happens when that angry shark, that angry dragon, the poked bear decides to come back in the next match? But right now, we're going to keep on board here with the teams who will have an opportunity to close the gap, because realistically, going into the back 5 of these games, only really the teams in the top 4 or maybe the top 5 can statistically still kind of overtake this route, and it's going to take a large effort. As you see Clement going and doing every little thing right, making sure they maximize on the utility here, going all the way out and picking up that second big pot, and then going to rotate back up the zone.
And, you know, I know the Halloween party is over and all that spooky scariness, but I've always learned to double tap. You always got to double tap and make sure that monster is down. And that's what Flick, Thomas, and Nos, they're going to have to double tap that down if they're going to keep Mongrel's trio at bay. So, Mongrel's trio is out. Now let's just focus in on who is in and who has the opportunity to go up the leaderboard. And if you're questioning anybody out there, like, why would Thomas and Nos and Flick do that? Because they're slipping down the leaderboard. They start off the day with 15. They're going down to 17. Having Stark, that strong POI in their back pocket now, could enable them to get up their leaderboard and secure themselves thousands of dollars. All of it is on the line.
And people are going to say, oh, why would they go and grief the top trio like that? And to my response to that, are you crazy? Are you crazy? They're competing to try to be the absolute top mark.
Yes.
And if this is a trio who is more than capable of winning games, especially when you see Thomas and Anas enabled with shockwaves, that's kind of what you really need to take away. They have to have a reliable way of getting the late game utility. That's how they've won their games. And if you can go Stark and guarantee that, yes, you have to fight one of the best teams in the entire game to get them. But if you want to win, you have to beat those guys anyway. And they finally said enough is enough. And if you're going to post your spot on Twitter, if you're going to talk about how you're so good at defending this spot, you better have a game plan and you better back it up. Because anybody has the opportunity to land anywhere. This is Fortnite Battle Royale. And if a team gives you a hard enough time, you need to game plan better and find a way to deal with it.
And that is what we call preach right then and there, Sundown. Now we're on board here with the BDS, Robots. They got a victory royale here. They were able to have a very nice aggressive play. They kind of took the textbook of fighting on the low ground, doing really well. and they got a victory royale. So one of the few teams that have a victory royale, because Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson have 3 victory royales. Giannis Trio has 1 victory royale. Kenzel's Trio has 1, and as well, Gamma's Cammy's Trio has 1 as well. Cammy and Co. So those are the stories that are unfolding here. And the great thing is, you know, we can speculate all you want, but it is the competitors themselves that answers the questions. And that is what we're watching here as the drama unfolds. And the drama will pick up for Wolfies and CRR, considering Kenzel, the back-to-back DreamHack champion, goes down. And Kenzel is just like just like Tayson for this trio. He kind of holds it all together, considering that in DreamHack it's a very placement-heavy format, and having that ability to kind of slow pace, passively, aggressively at times whenever you needed to get your way further into in-game, that's going to help off people like CRR Wolfies, who are known to be great opens box fighter players.
But right now, we're keeping on that Storm Surge threshold on the right-hand side, just above the map. We talked about them being below it. Well, the key snipe there coming from that World Cup runner-up there, the young controller player from England. Wolfie's finding a great tag and a sneaky little bullet in there on Takira through the window, just like a true sniper would. Well done to put himself above. And we talk about the little moments. That moment is so much bigger than just the 1 point on the elimination. Shedding themselves of that Storm Surge threat is going to be massive in terms of just getting positioning. As we've seen, atypical compared to what we've seen in Europe so far. There's been more and more Storm Surge pressure, and coming into Grand Finals, no team had more Elans versus Mongrels trio than Flicks, and a part of that has to do with the rotation path. They're always coming out of the east and passing that Stark Industries, and also, man, just pound for pound, they're one of the few trios who actual wall-to-wall matches up with those guys. And when we talk about kind of wall-to-wall, that's when you're in a box against somebody and not necessarily in the same space, but owning 1 or 2 walls in between you guys. These guys execute on those fights almost better than anyone in Europe.
And Thomas is a superstar, had a great run in heats. Nas and Flick are right behind him as well. They're forming a very strong trio. Thomas HG had some Twitter barbs with Zexero from NA East. Thomas HG was talking about, hey, who could come over here from NA East and compete? Should I go over there? It's so interesting. We all wish we had a World Cup Part 2. Like I said, sometimes the sequels are better than the originals. We all wish that. We all wish we'd be able to settle the great debate of EU versus NA. And don't forget about the Latin American. Don't forget about the Asia. Don't forget about OCE. We're talking about Fortnite, baby, worldwide. Some of the best competitors all throwing down, and it's all happening here in this amazing month here. I cannot wait to see who's going to walk away champion here for EU, and I cannot wait to see who's going to walk away for champion in NA East, so the debate's going to kick back up again.
You can see right now we're hopping on board here with that second place team on the leaderboard, who's going to try and take advantage of that opportunity to shrink that leaderboard and shrink the lead of that top trio. But I'm glad you mentioned something about Latin America, because if there's an international land, we've seen just how good King can be in those circumstances. But right now, all the focus is on Europe, as Xqueeze, aka MCES, Duck on top there, finds a nice little knock and some key shots on players trying to rotate in. Now, this positioning, we've talked about it time and time before, it's called a gatekeeping position. When you're in the safe zone and pressuring players who have the zone at their back, or either already into it and need to make it into the new safe zone. It's where a lot of teams who had the foresight to rotate earlier are able to get key opportunities to pick up eliminations. And you can see right now, Duck on top doing a great job spraying down shots there, having control of the pieces in the area, and now trying to locate where that weak member is.
And we're seeing already the rest of the lobby, seems to heating up at the right moment. Hen picks up a knock right there in the Elam feed, so that's going to be huge for them. Now that